I am the famous American, and I have a question for you. How do minorities actually feel about these politically correct revisions that are happening in the United States? So for example, there's no more Mrs. Butterworth as we've known it, the jar of pancake syrup, Uncle Ben's rice, now even doing away with certain books from Dr. Seuss. We're seeing these changes take place. What's next? Will Jeep Cherokee, those vehicles, will those go away too? Will they have to change their name? There's baseball teams, for example. Will they have to change their name? That's the shift we're seeing happen here. But it makes me wonder, specifically, how do the minorities actually feel? So for example, the Dr. Seuss books that are being changed, a couple of those are being removed from circulation because they shed light on this concept of racism towards Asian people. Are Asian people actually offended by the verbiage and the illustrations in those Dr. Seuss books? We could say the same thing about anything related to Native Americans in regards to them being called Redskins for sports teams, things like that. Are they actually offended, or is it white people being offended on behalf of the minorities? And what I'm going to pitch to you is, it's white people being offended on behalf of the minorities. And I love to share this story. You know, I've been doing this channel for several years now as I talk about race and ethnicity. And one of the things I keep mentioning is that my final college paper, before I graduated with my English degree, and we basically got to choose what we wanted to do on a big list. The one I came up with, I wanted to explore why was it that there was such hatred towards Jewish people throughout history. Why is that? Because for me, as a college student, I thought Jewish people seem cool. I don't see why people would mistreat them. Of all people, it seems like they would celebrate Jewish people. Our value as a society only increases thanks to Jewish people. That's common knowledge to me. So I didn't understand that. I did a paper on it. One of the things that I learned was that ultimately Jewish people, as they were forced out, as they were outsiders, they had to be able to create a living for themselves, one that would allow them to be able to move around as they were pushed out of whatever their local society was. And that's exactly what they did. So even now, it is known, especially here in the United States, Jewish people have a tendency to be really good at managing money. Now, some people would be offended and say, oh, that's stereotyping, that's offensive. Well, not if you ask people who are actually Jewish. In fact, people who are actually Jewish comment on videos when I say that and say, yeah, you're exactly right. So when I say it, and it is true that on my mom's side, that there is some Jewish background there, not that I'm a practicing Jewish person, but the DNA, the genetic markers are there. So yeah, certain values and ideas have been passed down, I believe, through that side, and I'm very aware of money management. I'm not in debt. I am investing money. My YouTube channels, for example, are a side hustle. I make money from the ad revenue. Like, that's a concept. You always want to be making money in various different ways, not just in your career. So this concept that Jewish people are good at managing money, is it a stereotype, or is it something that's been passed down as part of a culture? And I believe, yes, out of necessity. That's what my research showed me when I did that paper in college. Now, with all that being said, and for all I know, even on this video, there are going to be white people, or let me be specific, there are going to be non-Jewish people who get offended by what I said. And they're going to leave an angry comment. They are called keyboard warriors. That's what they are. They get even offended on behalf of Jewish people, even though they're not Jewish. We see the same thing, though, with people who are offended on behalf of other minorities. For example, Native Americans. For example, Black Americans. But what's interesting is, do those minorities actually care, especially when we see companies change their policy or their image accordingly? And what's funny is, I don't think so. I don't think, and please correct me where I'm wrong, I don't believe that Black Americans really cared so much that they took the man's picture off of Uncle Ben's rice. I really don't think that they are. And I don't really think China is offended by the fact that there were certain words used to illustrate and explain that people in Asia perceptively have different eye shape than people here in the United States. I don't think they're offended by that, but I think ultimately there's more responsibility, and I'm going to say in the name of censorship, that companies and corporations have to play by this rule so that the mainstream white people don't get offended. And that's the irony. The whole concept is we don't want to offend minorities. Well, instead, the truth is they don't want to offend the majority, and that is white people. That's the paradox. That's my opinion, but my opinion doesn't matter. Whose opinion does? Yours. And where does your opinion matter? Where does it belong? Right here in the comments.